Good afternoon. It is still April the 18th. It is still on the eve of destruction. Hopefully not destruction, but the eve of what's supposed to be a major science fiction, yeah, major science fiction fantasy event, a major snowfall. They're still saying we could get 20 centimeters over the next couple of days. Really setting in tonight, but we did have a little bit this morning, and I thought maybe that was the start of it, but settled down for the moment, that it's supposed to be coming. It's above freezing, so no ice to worry about, but tonight it's supposed to come back in with rain and snow and multiple centimeters of the white stuff headed our way. Yay. Plus high winds. Oh, goody. Travel not advised. Well, fortunately I got nowhere to go. Except home right now. Did a lot of editing, so that's all was good, and yeah, that's all I was doing. I edited 3 different projects I worked on at the time I was down here. What's with the gimbal? It seems to be acting weirdly. I'll go home and probably do some more. Tonight I have that audition I mentioned for Spamalot, Regina summer stage. Got to get ready for that. I got to print my resume and make sure I have a photo and all that stuff. Kind of zigzag our way back here, I think. This is 13th now. There's the back. Come on, gimbal. There's the back of the hotel. And the towers of downtown and South Power Building and all that stuff. One thing I'm working on is another crowdsourcing campaign. This one will this one is through Crowdfunder without the R, and will be to ensure that I can get Shapers of Worlds Volume 4, which I successfully kickstarted but didn't quite reach the stretch goal for, illustrated by artist Wendy Nordell, who happens to be my niece, but she illustrated my science fiction and fantasy poetry collection, I Tumble Through the Diamond Dust. And I was very impressed with that, and she's gone on to do quite a number of books, thanks to that first one that I commissioned her for, which makes me happy. So I'm very happy to have her illustrating the new anthology. Municipal Hail, says this building. That's an apartment building right there. Kind of stands by itself along here. Oh, there's the wind. Some old apartment buildings, older style. There are upfront costs, and it takes a long time to recover those costs. Long after the book goes on sale before you're liable to eventually have paid off those expenses. So this is why most publishers in Canada, that's Sterling over there, which does musical theater, most publishers in Canada rely on grants. And I've had one, but grants have their own issues. And they're not particularly friendly to the new way. Let's zigzag this way. They're not particularly friendly to the new wave of publishing and the way that it runs. I have an application in to join Literary Press Group, and one of the things they offer is distribution through LitDistco, it's called. That used to be an art gallery over there, the Susan Whitney Gallery. It's a nice house. I think it's just a house again now. But it's all designed for a very old-fashioned model of publishing, so you have to have like a fall catalog, a fall list, and a spring list, and it's all tied to that sort of thing. And as an independent publisher, I'm used to When I get something ready to go, it's published. That's all there is to it. Print on demand lets you do that. And having talked to somebody who's used the Lit Distco model, they put up, I don't know, several books before they made any money off anything through that model. So, I don't know. I keep feeling like I'm missing the key. Maybe it's marketing. I have a publicist who helps my authors, but does that translate to much in the way of sales? Not that I can tell. I can't afford paid advertising. Paid advertising, when I have done it, tends to be break even at best, like Facebook ads. I think what it ultimately comes down to is there is no money in publishing, but we do it anyway. But you know, some things you just do because you do them. And it is part of my creative efforts. And I do enjoy publishing other people. I enjoy being published, but I enjoy publishing other authors as well, and creating books that never would have existed before. So I guess I'll keep doing it, at least for the time being. Although I do worry how much I'm not writing. I was talking to MCA Hogarth today for the podcast, World Shapers podcast. That episode will probably go live in 5 or 6 weeks. And, you know, she's putting out 2.5 novels, or a novel every 2.5 months or thereabouts. I could do that. I could totally do that. But I'd have to drop everything else and do nothing but write. And that's actually what I want to do. But I've gotten into publishing, and I really enjoy the publishing. But the time. And I want to record audiobooks, but the time. I have a nonfiction book due. That one I have to do because I got a grant for it. But the time. And one thing, it's a cliche, but it's true as you get older, is you realize you do not have all the time in the world to get everything done that you would like to get done. When you're 20, it seems like you have forever. Even when you're 30, it seems like you have forever. Even when you're 40, it seems like you have forever. By the time you get to 50, you start to wonder. And I'm now 63, and I'm thinking, I do not have all the time in the world. I could be running out. So, it's, I guess it focuses. It's like there's a famous quote about there's nothing like knowing you're going to be hanged on the morrow to focus a man's attention. I'm not complaining, not really, except I just really wish my writing had taken off to the extent that that's would be my entire focus right now, and I wouldn't have to do the publishing side of things. But, you know, there was just a worldwide survey that shows that independently published or self-published authors are making more money than traditionally published authors. So the dream I had of being a traditionally published author, making enough money to live on, is practically non-existent for anybody. It's not just me. And it's only gotten less likely. It's snowing a little bit more the longer I walk here. Well, there you go. Long speech about publishing, state of publishing. My state of publishing, anyway. Can't speak to anybody else. As I head home, only a few minutes from home, I'm not stretching this out in any way. Hopefully my knee stays good. I will have to have some sort of dance audition tonight. I can't dance, so they could just skip that part as far as I'm concerned. Just put me down as, we'll have to struggle. It's not that I struggle to learn, it's just it takes me longer than it would somebody who had extensive dance training. One thing you find with my daughter having gone through dance, I can now see this. What you learn through dance is kind of a vocabulary that you can then apply when you're being choreographed for shows. So there's your dance studio right over there. So a choreographer could say, okay, we're going to do this step, this many beats, and then we switch to that, and you've got that vocabulary, you can just chain that together. Whereas if you have no dance training, or very little, like me, you have to learn everything from scratch every time the choreographer shows it to you. So, what's a box step? How do you do a box step? What do you mean? Step ball change. What? And you don't have the built-in muscle memory of, where your weight should go. That's actually one of the biggest things, is making sure your weight's on the right foot before you make another move. And if you're learning it as you go, you tend to get that wrong, and then you stumble. So, again, that's probably my biggest shortcoming as a performer for musical theater. Now, of course, that doesn't affect me in a straight play, and yet somehow I gravitated to musical theater because I can sing as well. If I could just dance, I'd be a triple threat, but double at best. I am thinking next year I will do more auditioning for Little Theater. I haven't done a Little Theater play in forever. And the last things I did, I directed. I wasn't in them. So maybe this coming year. They have a very interesting season coming up. And I know Regina Lyric Musical Theater is planning to do a proper show next year. And so before I get too old to remember my lines, I want to cram in some more performing, because I really love performing on stage. Singing, I do a lot of singing, and I enjoy that too, but the actual being in a show and creating a character, soaking up the applause, making them laugh, make them cry, all that stuff, it's really cool. And I've been in love with it since I was 11 years old and was in my first play, which was The Taming of the Shrew, a one-act adaptation. And there were years when I first moved up here when I was doing show after show after show, and I loved it. But on the other hand, I didn't have a family. I love having a family too. I loved having my daughter. I love having my wife. And we actually met through theater, my wife and I. But partly because of the daughter, it kind of slipped, my own performing activities slipped into the background a bit, plus being busy with other things. But, here's my chance. I'm not old yet. I'm getting there, but I'm not really old yet. I should have a few good years of performance And I was inspired recently by reading about a fellow who didn't really get started on his performing career until he was 60, and now here he is performing at Stratford. So that's inspiring, I guess. Oddly enough, one of the inspiring writers I met early on was Dave Duncan, very famous fantasy writer. He didn't start his writing career till he was in his 50s. And he was one of the first people I met in the field when he came to do a reading at the Saskatchewan Science Centre when I was the communications officer there. And I got to know him a bit after that. And now, lo and behold, my Shadowpaw Press is going to be publishing his last two novels, his last two unpublished novels. He died a few years ago. These novels were, by his wishes, left in the care of Dr. Robert Runte, who's an editor, and he's offered them to me, and I'm happy to take them. So Shadowpaw Press will publish, one is called Corridor to Nightmare, and the other one is called The Traitor's Son. Probably early next year, looking at everything I have between now and then, but they're coming, and that'll be very exciting to be the one who brings those last Dave Duncan novels to the world. So that's where the publishing side is really rewarding. And yet, what I really want to do is write. All I've ever wanted to do is make a living just writing fiction. And I still haven't gotten there, and I'm 63 years old. 64 in July. So if I'm going to be an overnight success, I need to get on that. Okay, well, that made this more of a vlog, a video blog, than one of my usual walks, but nevertheless, I hope you've enjoyed the walk back from downtown. Almost home. A little bit farther, Further for metaphorical distance, farther for actual distance is the rule. Mostly ignored, but that's what I use for editing. A little bit farther, as a few snowflakes are falling now, I will be home. Now that sounds potentially like a military jet. Hard to say. Might be an airliner above the clouds already. We do occasionally get CF-18s or snowbirds, which are Tudor training jets. That's the precision flying team for the Canadian Forces. And they're based in Moose Jaw, so we do occasionally get CF-18s or Tudor jets flying over. That perhaps didn't have quite the sound of a CF-18, so I suspect maybe it was just a commercial jet that was up too high for me to see. I would like to get out to Moose Jaw this summer and do a walk there. I think that'd be cool. I did do a book, Historic Walks of Regina and Moose Jaw, and although I've walked in many of the places that the Regina part focuses on, I've never done a walk in Moose Jaw. I'd like to get down to Weyburn too, my old hometown, do a walk down there, but I haven't done that yet either. Okay, well, up here is where we will stop. Halfway up the sidewalk is the place where we'll stop. How about this spot? This seems like a good spot. So, thank you for watching and walking with me. And I don't know, I'll be back. I hope to get out tomorrow. If it's really snowing and blizzarding, I'll actually make sure to get out because that's always fun to live stream. I get a lot of views when I do live streaming in a snowstorm. But that's it for today. Bye for now.